Hi, Michael.
Yeah, how are you?
I shared my work.
I can see it here too.
Yeah. Okay.
How are you doing today?
I'm working on a document for a player, because in this time in Italy we are working on the contract for the organized by Michael, because for me it's important to have a good network to colleagues, to friends about in this work. It's important to know the situation of regulation in every country, in every federation. In Italy is particular, and I after will present my work in a short PowerPoint about the situation in Italy. And after this meeting, I hope to start a good situation to work with you for your need in to work in Italy. And I will offer my service, the services of my association.
Oh, thank you. You are welcome.
Thank you.
Switzerland. How are you doing?
Thank you, Michael. I'm here. Yes, the director of the Swiss Football Agent Association. I think we all met in Zurich in Letzigrund. I don't know if everybody was there, but yeah, most of you were there. And I'm very happy that you organize that call so we can keep in touch and also exchange information and collaborate if possible. Furthermore, we're also an agency in Switzerland, and we're always happy to help and to open to do some business.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sao Paulo, Mr. Marcos.
Thank you so much, Marcos. Michael, as I said, it's always good to see you all.
Yeah.
Since last time we met in Zurich, in Switzerland, you were in the middle of the debate of the discussion of the FIFA regulations on agents. Everything is on hold at the moment.
Sure.
Brazilian market, it's, I mean, we are just now in the debate if you go back to training and when we resume our tournaments. But I have been talking with the, the whole, governing bodies, taking part of the entire discussion, the global worldwide discussion with FIFA and UEFA, and even in South American, and also with our clients. As you know, I'm not an agent, but we advise most of the agents in Brazil and also the big agents in Europe, so we can have kind of a very broad overview about the market at the moment. And it's very clear that we are all facing the same challenges, but in different levels. So it's very important, this kind of conversation that we are having here, this debate, because as I said, 2 days ago, I was in a big event in London, online with the Law in Sport, debating the transfer market with stakeholders and Premier League. And I said, listen, I'm happy to take part on this because I'm not here on behalf of the 1%ers. I'm here on behalf of the 90%ers. So I see a lot of movement in the market, how to adapt the market. For example, UEFA giving some flexibility in their financial fair play, the license system, FIFA making a lot of flexibility in their transfer system in terms of registration periods and so on. But we have to be very careful as well how this would impact in developing regions like Africa, South America, Central America, because at the end of the day, we are the largest or the biggest market in terms of source of young players, youth players. So I would say that I am a little bit concerned. I'm pretty sure that we're gonna have a big impact Big clubs, big markets will always be big clubs and big markets. But I think that is very important for us to discuss here what measures with kind of action and act like a stakeholders. Again, the stakeholders of the 99%ers, not the stakeholders of the 1%ers. So it's very important us here in this debate to discuss and try to understand a little bit more about the impact of the COVID in each area in terms of broadcasting, sponsorship, and the transfer market. Thank you so much again for the opportunity.
Yeah, you are welcome, Marcos. By now, we have Ruben online. Ruben is from India. Ruben, how are you?
I don't hear.
We can hear you, Ruben.
Ruben, okay. Speak.
Open the microphone.
Yeah. Hi.
That was good.
Hi. I'm so glad to be a part of this webinar. So thank you for the organizer. So I'm from India. So I think I'm the youngest one to be the part of this webinar. So I will learn so much from this webinar, and I think we will throw a little bit thoughts about this grassroots. No? So thank you.
All right. Let me come back to Nigeria. We have from Abuja, Aman, Gbenga Global. How are you?
Open the microphone.
Microphone. Yes, now we go.
Hi, everyone.
Louder, please.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Hello?
Yeah, you're on.
Oh, okay. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Nice meeting everybody. My name is Gbenga Global from Abuja, Nigeria. I'm a player intermediary, and I'm so happy to be here. Unless I've been waiting for this opportunity to come on board over months. I mean, before pandemic, actually, we've been discussing about something of such. But thank God for this opportunity that Michael brought to the global platform, because this is a global platform. And I think from our experience, each and every one of us can work together, network together, and it's going to be an avenue for us to see another way how we can help our grassroots. And I'm sure with our collaboration and networking and discussion today, it's going to show us a better or a new way to achieve what next in the football industry for our grassroots. Thank you for having me here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You are welcome. We have a youth coach and a sport director of an academy from Lagos. Emmanuel, how are you?
Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, clear.
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay. My name is Emmanuel. I'm Emmanuel Oladapo. I'm from Lagos. I run a sports academy here. It's called the Spring Soccer United Academy. And it's a great privilege to be on this platform today. It's going to be more of a learning experience for me. Like I said, like I've always thought, upstairs here is about creating opportunities for young talents here in Africa. And with the emergence of COVID-19, now we want to start about the ensuring challenges that we may start encountering when it comes to financial set plays and talking about structural packages also to the old football at the grassroots level. So I think this is a very awesome platform to learn and share experience, to also think out ways to making sure that we help every younger grassroots player here in Nigeria and Africa actualize their dreams despite the challenges of the pandemic. So once again, it's a great privilege to be here.
Thank you. We also have some guests online. We have Rodrigo, we have Diogo, we have, there is another one there, Kinisco. How are you guys?
Hi, sir. It's a good afternoon from Lagos, Nigeria. and I'm pretty for me, it's a learning experience, and a bit about my background. It's around technology, and we have been, I think Raffaele and I think Philippe also, and Gbenga mentioned, this is a time for collaboration and good things. And I'm very happy to inform you that, we have something that will interest all of you. And we have been able to create it so that to solve the player discovery problem in Africa. And then so we have a simple tool that has over 5,000 African players in one location. Verify that agents and the people in this call can find very useful. I will be happy to give a private free access to anyone on this call that is interested. And I'm pretty happy to be here because this is what I've always advocated for us to move football forward and for us to grow all together. Thank you.
All right, you are welcome. Your name once again?
All right, my name is Abiodun Thorpe, and I'm one of the directors at Kiniswa.
Abiodun. All right.
Sir.
Yeah, you are welcome. Yeah. Rodrigo. How are you, Rodrigo?
So hello, how are you to all the panelists? I'm Rodrigo from Portugal. Well, I saw a few minutes ago a post from Marcos with regards to the agents in Africa, and I thought it is a really interesting matter to address in such a panel, due to the fact that there are a lot of minors and other players that need protection and a true legal framework in which they can be protected from wrongdoing, either from agents or other clubs that are trying to abuse their position economically and financial to seduce some minors and other people from Africa. Thank you a lot, and I hope this will be a good chat.
Yeah, thank you. Diogo, how are you?
Hi guys, thanks for organizing this webinar. I'm here to listen and learn from you guys. I work with Orlando City Soccer in MLS here in the United States, and I'm very interested in see how everything is going on in Africa. And I saw this invitation in the Marcos Motta Twitter, and I'm here to listen from you guys. And anything I can help, and any opinion you guys need from everything that's happening here in the US, I'm totally open to share with you. So thanks for the invitation, and I'm here to listen and learn from you guys.
Thank you, Diogo.
Thank you.
Diogo is a top guy. Diogo is a top guy, Michael. He
Wow.
works in city, and he has a lot of experience in young players. He used to work with Kaká, so he could be a great contributor to our talk. Also, trying to explain how the academies and the youth in the US operates. Maybe it could be a very good opportunity for us to learn from him as well. Diego, thank you so much. Diogo, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Diego. Thank you. Yeah, we have AC. How are you?
Open the microphone.
AC, how are you?
I can't hear you, Wesley.
Hello, how are you, AC?
You have to open your mic.
I'm fine. Sorry. Yeah, hello.
Yeah, you're on.
My name. Okay, I'm sorry. My name is S.A. and I would say I'm privileged to be a part of this global movement. Actually, I got the link from a friend, and when I saw the link, I was really happy to be part. Actually, I told him that it is a good thing. So I told him that if I will be privileged to be part today, I will be really grateful. So he gave me the opportunity to be part. So I would say it's an art venue for me to really learn, and because I'm really interested in promoting grassroots football. Actually, I live in Italy. I mean,
I have a bad connection.
All right, we get over it soon. We also have a newcomer here, but before his connection get through, let me start by asking everyone this question. As an agent or as a youth coach, what is the most important thing you like to see in a youth player? Raffaele.
For youth player, we work in Italy a lot with the youth player. The regulation from FIFA is stringent for to work for the player from the country extra Europe is very difficult. There are other countries in Europe, Portugal, I think, in which there is they can work with youth player, and in Italy it's need to speak with parents. Many players from Africa come in Italy, and it's need to put the player in a family, Italian family, to grow and to go to school. It's difficult to work, but there are many clubs that work with agents in Africa, and in the youth club, the youth session of club, there are the player from Nigeria, from Gambia. In the times from 2015, 2018, I saw before to Michael in Italy, in the country that sports many players was maybe the Gambia, and after Gambia there are other country, and from Africa, particular this player are a young player. A young player, and but of this number of player, only 20% of this they continues to play in Italy after 18 here. I don't know. I think it's need to work better between the federation. I think it's need a new regulation with the player. For example, I think the impossibility to work with the player, to have remuneration for the negotiation with the player before 18. I don't say before 18, 14 or 15, but 16. The player seen here can see the first contract, professional contract. For me, is incredible that the agents cannot have the remuneration as the regulation of FIFA. Is incredible that the agent cannot have the remuneration if the player, his player, seeing the first contract with the professional team. This is a one topic about the problem, but I hope in the next regulation of FIFA we can solve this problem.
Yeah, thank you. Phil, what do you what is the most important thing you like to see in a youth player? The most important. Is it the stamina, the skills, the tactical ability, height, physique, speed, or other attributes? What would you like to see?
It's difficult to narrow it down to like one attribute. I think it's mostly a package of all of it.
Cara, deu uma adiantada aí já nos pratos que a galera tinha deixado, viu?
Okay.
Só faltou os copos.
Hey guys, watch out the microphones.
Yeah. So I was, like I say, if you look at who made it to the first team, it's mostly not the talented person who was at 15 the most talented young player. It's mostly a combination of how you train, how smart you are, how ambitious you are, and so it's difficult for me to say he has to be tall, he has to be small. You cannot narrow it down to one thing. So, and in the end, you also need luck in your team, because if in front of you you have, I don't know, if you look at Juventus, you have Ronaldo, you will never have a chance as a youth player. So you have to move away from a club. So this, I think it's a mix of different attributes.
Wow, thank you.
Sorry, Michael. Can I say about athletic topic of a youth player? In Italy, before was important if the player was tall after 180. But now after we have many players don't more tall, but with good fit, and so with the club try a new player, no youth player. They try they see the tactic situation, see the fit before the tall. And so is a new situation from 2 or 3 years ago in Italy.
All right.
It's my contribute about the situation in Italy.
Ralph, in the next 10 minutes, you will make your presentation. Just get set. Marcus. Hi, Marcus.
Me. Yeah, it's me here.
Okay. I want to ask you, what is the most important thing you like to see in a youth player?
As you know, I'm not an agent, but maybe you know that I'm a former football director. I'm a former football director in Flamengo from the youth squads between 96 and 99. So, and then I learned a lot working with youth squads, academies, and training and education of players. And I remember in these old days, if I can call old days, 98, 97, we had great experience in doing this sort of scouting, for example. And it's interesting to note how the market has changed almost 20 years later. In the beginning, of course, we had a very limited, no digital, let's say, scouting. Today you have, for example, the Y Scout.
Hi. Ralph, are you on?
Active part in this education of the players, and also identify the players that can be ready, or at least have the minimal skills or characteristics that if they have a good, a proper agency and educational work behind, they would be ready to the football market. And this will be more and more now demanded from the players because of the COVID. I think the LTE, as I'm calling the low touch economy, will reshape the habits and the business practice in football. And players must be ready to understand this shift. And also you agents must be ready to understand the shift. Also us lawyers, I mean, the entire industry must be aware and ready to adapt their business model and also the players' skills. Meaning it's not only what they do on the pitch, but also what the player can deliver outside of the pitch. So I think this is a very important topic to be addressed here. Thank you so much, Michael.
You're welcome. Before I go back to Raf, let me go to Diego straight. As a youth specialist, an academic specialist, what do you like to see? The most important thing you like to see in a youth player? Diego, are you on?
Yes. Actually, I'm not an academy specialist. I mostly work with marketing and communication. But I am on the field for like 20 years, working with big players and some clubs too. And what I mostly like to see in one player is one of the things that has been pretty much important at this time. So as Marco said, it's not only about what the player do inside the pitch, but outside the pitch is also very important. And in this world we are living now, where most of them, they are not playing, and here in the US, for example, they are not playing, what's most important for me and for the club at this time is players who can connect with the community, who can be one very good spokesperson and deliver everything that we must to keep delivering to our fans, even without being playing. So on my position, I have to trust on my scoutings and my soccer directors and everybody else who can check, of course, if this player is a good player to play for our team. But here in the US, I can have a voice when we decide which player we will hire or not, showing if this player is not only good with the ball playing, but if he will be good, deliver what we have to deliver for our sponsors and for our community. Because without supporters and without sponsors, we won't have money to pay the best players in the world. So this balance between what they do inside the pitch and of course what they do outside the pitch, I think is pretty important. And I do think every single club in the world should pay attention when they hire a player, even a young player, when they scout a young player, if this player will be ready for the challenges and if this player will deliver what we have to deliver inside the field and outside the field too.
Correct. I agree. Totally agree.
Very good. Well, we have a new guest on now, Luis Ostavio. How are you doing? Luis.
Fine. I'm fine. I'm a student of sports law, a fan of Marcos from Brazil.
Wow.
And I'm just listening a little to learn more, understand the situation that we are living here. And if I can contribute, I am here to help too.
And I am with my daughter.
A youth player.
You have a young player beside you. Anyway, Rodrigo.
Tell me, Michael.
Yeah, how do you see grassroots football in your country?
Well, in Portugal, as you all might know, in the last few years, the three biggest clubs in Portugal have really invested into their academies because they have looked upon the future rather than a short-term future. So they want to build the foundations that possibly can enable them to pursue success at a European level at a longer stance than it was in the last 10 years. The last triumph that the Portuguese club had at a European level was at the Champions League in 2004. so long time, but of course, Portugal is not one of the main countries in European football, but we should look at other means to try to develop our football and to try to be competitive with the other biggest leagues and clubs. So basically, this is the status quo in Portugal at this point. We also have a lot of connections with Africa. As you might know, Cabo Verde, Angola, Mozambique, we have a lot of players coming from these countries. And I was in situations where agents, they misrepresented the players, they misinformed them, a lot of issues arising from their passports, the credibility of their passports. So I think that Portugal's being a selling country, but also a welcoming country to players coming from Mozambique, Angola, and Cabo Verde, they should have stricter regulations to help these kids. I know cases where clubs just offered a tryout to African players. If they fit in, well. If they did not, well, the club just released them. They didn't even bought the tickets, the plane tickets for them to go back. So this is a big issue in Portugal, where we have a discrepancy of first division clubs and the other clubs with regard to academy and the protection of the youth athlete.
How do you think the connection between the youth teams in Portugal and the youth team in Africa? What's the connectivity between both? Rodrigo?
I think agents incentivize a lot the movement, even though in Africa, as we know, there are a lot of academies outside of the organized football. And so they are not under the RSTP and the protection that other minors have in other clubs and in other federations. But in Portugal, we usually look a lot to African talents because the ability, not only the stamina, not only the strength, not only the pace, it's another lack of qualities, another spectrum of qualities that the Portuguese players don't have. And a lot of clubs look upon to African players, especially young players, to try to develop them and then to sell them to a bigger market, to a bigger league, because as I said, Portugal is a selling country. So I think with regard to scouting, Portugal is a step away from almost everyone in Europe, I would say, especially with regards to African players. So thank you.
Right.
You are saying the truth. That's normal. That's normal. Give me score.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Thank you so much, Michael. So what Rodrigo just mentioned is one of the major problem, and I think is one of the challenges that a lot of people face. And so for us at Kinesco, that's one of the challenges we have been trying to take on and to try to provide some solution to. And the discrepancy is a big problem. And so what we have tried to do is to try to see how regions like Portugal and other regions that are interested in Africa, and then to be able to have like a central independent place where they can fact check things, and also to be able to have a place they can be able to independently do their research, before, during, or after engaging communities over here. And the whole idea is for us to be able to improve the overall quality that comes out of Africa, and for people also within Africa to be able to, for us to be able to put the best fit forward, for us to be able to create an ecosystem of like minds that can grow Africa and African soccer talent. And to be honest, that's in the past few years is what we have been doing, and to see how we can unlock that challenges, because apart from the discrepancy, discovery problem is also a major challenge. I notice a lot of individuals or stakeholders outside of Africa have in identifying talent, and especially when there's a lot of discrepancy. And that's one of the things we have been able to take on at Kinesco. And I'm glad that we have been able to have something that will be useful for you, a simple tool that you can be able to make an informed decision from it. Thank you, Michael.
All right, thank you. Well, Marcus.
Me.
there is this simplicity between a Nigerian player and Brazilian player. A history told us that the way we play in Africa, in Nigeria exactly, is the same way you guys play in Brazil. Is that true?
I mean, I think that we, as I said, we are all developing. When I'm in the debates of, for example, FIFA committees or like stakeholders committees or task force working groups, I always say that we have, I always put Brazil like side by side with Africa, for example, in Caribbean, and these developing regions, because I think that I'm not talking about, of course, the style of the game, because it's pretty obvious that we have this the beautiful I think the translation of the beautiful game, it's so we can find it pretty clear. When you talk about Brazilian football, African football, you see, for example, in the World Cups, how the African national squads and South American national squads, how they play. It's always very in a happy way, enjoying the game. The show. It's a showtime always, and of course, this is a reflection of the way that our cultural characteristics, and I think this is what is demanded from the buying, let's say, the engaging countries like in European countries, and this, of course, this is part of the education that the academies they give. Maybe sometimes this is good, maybe sometimes this is not good. I always say that Brazilian players, African players, they have a pretty good technical skills, but they lack pretty much in tactical skills. They are not, at least Brazilian players, this is some difficulties that I see from our clients, the talk with our clients, that sometimes they find difficulties to adapt, not to the how they play, but how is the tactical, not the technical, but the tactical side of the game. Because that in Europe, for example, you have these countries and these head coaches. They have a lot of discipline, tactical discipline. They have pretty much the role of each player on the pitch. It's very clear, very well established. And I think we are learning. I think the new generation, it's more adapted. But, we advise that so many talent players that, move to Europe purely because of their technical skills. We worked with Roberto Carlos, we work with Robinho, we work with so many, transfer, even Neymar, it's about the technical, not about the tactical. So I think this shift is pretty interesting to note. And I think this is also applicable to African players, right? So maybe I think it's also a role, going back to my previous floor, this is, I think, is also a role for the academies to also try to start to develop this tactical, let's say, education, in order the players to be more adaptable to new markets when they have some transfer in place. So this is my view. Yes, my answer, yes. I think that we have a pretty similar characteristics in terms of technical. And saying that, I was today in the morning when I post this our webinar here in my Twitter. I had some answers here right now. I was checking. It's interesting to note that I have a lot of Brazilians, even journalists, supporters saying, wow, Africa, this is a great market that you start to look at, because you're always focused to sell players, transfer players to Europe. Why is not time to start to have a look, in the African players, in the youth squads of the African clubs, the African academies, and why don't we create a stream of transfers between South America and Africa? We never see that. it's just a one-way, you know, transfer. Brazil, Portugal, which is the biggest stream of players worldwide for the last 5 years, if you see the FIFA TMS. But I think it's time to change a little bit. See, consider that the market is changing in an amazing speed, unprecedented speed. Maybe it's time also to rethink the whole structure in terms of transfer, streaming of transfer of football players. Of course, we have limitations in terms of age, but I think that FIFA shall adapt pretty much in the near future. A lot of their regulations in terms of minors, this is a must, and I know that it's their agenda. But in any case, I think it's time to rethink about the possibilities. It's very hard to find like African players play in Brazil, and you have to ask why. Considering that they have a pretty similar technical skills. So that's my view on it.
All right, thank you. Well, Raf, yes. Can we have your presentation now within the next 10 minutes?
That's my, how long time we have?
We have about 40 minutes left.
No, we can speak another, because it's a long presentation. I don't want to end only on my work, but I can say about the presentation before.
Of a little bit and
before all, I am agree with Marcos. I invite you to follow Marcos on Twitter, because there are many important messages every day, and very interesting. But about the African market, I am agree is very important. In a report dating back to the 2017-2018 season in Italy, we can see that in addition to the players from Europe, about 30,000 from Africa are about in season 2017-2018 about 22,000 players. Young players, wow, or players or professional players. This is important because a big market for us, and it's important to grow the situation. Many clubs from Italy start their work in Africa with little Italian academy, which coach from Italy to grow the players in Africa, and after coming in Italy. Since 5 years ago, the skill for us, the skill of African player was only, particularly, not only, particularly athletic skill. Now we can see that are players with a good skill, with tactical skill. So for me, it was important that many clubs put our Italian club put our academy in Africa, so they can grow the player tactical and tactical and technical skill in his country, and after when the player is growing after 16 here to come in Italy to start his career in Italy situation.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Yes. Can I share something?
Okay, Emmanuel.
Okay, great. It's very interesting. First, to your question, we're talking about what to look out for in a player. Basically, for African players, I think the ability to learn, because we're in that era where you need to keep learning, you need to relearn and unlearn, you know. So I basically think that for African players, they should focus more on the football education. football education, not just the technical aspect, not just tactical aspect, but also the legal aspect of things, the branding aspect of it. All right, and then just like I think Marcos said, the image aspect of it. The players need to focus because now football is it's a rounded thing. It's an all-encompassing. You should not just be technical or tactical. You should understand the business side of it also as a young player. You know, so I think there's a basic need for this education and reorientation of young players by intermediaries. Because it's very, very important because the vacuum or the reason why we have a lot of issues when it comes to players transfer, young players and all of this is because of the lack of information. A lot of these young players don't have the proper information as to their football careers. They've not got people who are advising them. And that boils down to the intermediaries who are the middlemen in the process. They should try and create that orientation platform, that information platform for these young players.
Emmanuel,
okay, so I was also,
Emmanuel, let me quickly chip in something concerning the intermediary and the young players. The problem in Nigeria, let me say in Africa, most clubs, most football players in Africa, they don't like to work with an agent. That's the problem. So you have to note that.
Yeah, yes, I understand that too, and you know, it still has to do.
Once you are working with an agent, that agent will give you more information. The agent will give you better information about the player's future.
Okay, just like you know, our own academy, you know, is working with Mr. Ed who is an intermediary in Nigeria. We're working with him. But I'm saying this for the sake of other academies or other players. I'm saying that we have the FIAN, the Association of Intermediaries in Nigeria. We wanted to come up more with more information package programs to, you know, keep talking, you know, keep not just at this conference. Let's keep, you know, the narration. Let's keep talking more. Let's have conferences for these young players. Let them gather. Let's educate them over and over. I think that's just one of the solutions to the issues we may have. The other thing I also want to talk about quickly before I forget, which is, okay. The other thing I want to talk about quickly is also talking about the development. The development. We know a number of academies or club sides from Europe have come to Africa to do one or two things, you know, send their coaches down. But the truth is that these have not really had impact. I can tell you the truth because I've been at the grassroots level for a number of years. I can tell you that there is this rush to transform players into making transfers. There's that rush, such that African players, or so to speak, Nigerian players, are not properly developed. I can tell you, if Nigerian players are properly developed, say from the very scratch, you know, and then you allow them grow properly through the 8 tournaments, I can tell you that Nigeria has the potential of winning the World Cup over and over. I mean, back to back. I can tell you that. Talking about the technical abilities
where we have
these young
Brazil.
Players.
In every World Cup,
No. I'm serious because I just feel there's a rush. There's a rush in the industry. Everybody wants to become that intermediary tomorrow. Everybody wants to make a transfer. There's a pressure on that young player. You have to do, and so it's making the whole system. Because I know that in Europe they have this, you know, this system, you know, for the players to go through the ranks. You don't just go over there until you want to get that player transferred. You have the player's profile over the years. But our players don't have the profile.
Emmanuel, do you know that there are some youth coach in Nigeria that want an agent to perform an abracadabra for their players?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. My basic input is that it's an overall thing, from the academies to the intermediaries to the coaches. You know, we need to create a system, you know, where everybody understands their role. Just like in Europe, the sports director knows his role, the coaches know their role, you know, the sports director is not doing the coach's role and all of those things. So we need a system. We don't really have a system for developing our players here. We don't have a system where our players, okay, if I develop at this age, I have an intermediary. Yeah?
So we need to start.
Go on.
Okay, so that's just it, because it's just we're going to, let me use narration, we're going to Bagada. Or we going through Shodi, go to Keja, go to a Pangroove, we're just going, we have a system of, this is where we go and this is how we go. There's no process. And it's affecting the way football is being run in our country. So I think the intermediaries can do a lot because I think that's the focus here, the role of intermediaries and then grassroots players. I think the intermediaries can do a lot more. I don't want to talk about our FA now. I don't want to talk about FA because that's another discussion for another day. But the intermediaries can do a lot in terms of education, at least education of players.
Noted. Yes. Thank you. Let me go to Phil.
Philippe, if I may, just adding on to what Emmanuel just brought in, do you believe that it's up to the national governments to create that system in which the academies have to thrive in, or FIFA has to step in as well? Because as we know, there's a Belgian club named Leuven, which has an agreement with the academy outside of the organized football, and they hire players aged 18 without any player's passport, so it's not clear, the situation. So no training compensation, no solidarity, how's the contract being managed? So that arrangement between the Belgium club and also the academy, which conditions are provided to the player, in which conditions he is being developed in. So it's basically a circumvention to the FIFA rules. And this works to the prejudice of the players, but as well as the intermediaries. So I think that we need is a dialogue between national governments and FIFA to try to apply mechanisms and to try to educate not only intermediaries, but the people who run those academies to better educate and to make the football world a better place, I believe so. So basically that's it, Miguel. Thank you.
Yeah, FIFA has been trying, if you allow me, Michael, FIFA has been trying to rule these academies issues, not easy. You have so many, small schools, academies. I think FIFA has failed once again when they say that the clubs are responsible for their own academies or the academies that use the name, but it's not very clear. And they transfer this responsibility to the national associations to do so. And again, national associations has failed because sometimes they have interest, right?
Yeah,
it's very clear for me. I mean, every single big club in the world is trying to find the new Cristiano, the new Messi, the new. Why we have regulated that much? The small academies and so on, just leave it free, leave free market. For the academies, a free market. For the agents, it's a purely regulated market. This kind of imbalance that sometimes really. But in any case, this is what it is. But we have to have an active voice on that. Have to talk more. We have to try to participate more. You have to publish more articles on that in order to push the stakeholders. Because as I said, everything sometimes is very pretty flexible for regions, and very controlled for other regions. Another thing that I think that it's important to discuss here is that I think that the agents also have to pressure the issue of the representation of young players under 18. I am of the strong opinion, the firm opinion, that a player with 16 years old, or 15 years old, under a very controlled market, of course, very clear rules. I'm not talking about banning caps and so on, but 15 in Brazil, players can sign their first professional contracts when they are 16 years old. And by the law, maybe they are not allowed to be represented by an agent. Can you imagine, in a very sophisticated markets as football, a 15 years old player with no education, no formation, also include the parents, no preparation, goes to a meeting to negotiate his first professional contract without an agent? This is crazy. You just bring a player to, a CEO, CFO, CEOs, CDOs, C-level president, executives of the clubs. You know how much attention they pay to the young players nowadays. And these players, prima facie, cannot be represented. They cannot engage in agent services. Gentlemen, 16 years, the first professional contract of a player, it's probably the most important contract of a
100%.
player's career.
100%.
It's the most important one, because when he's 28, 25, whatever, he already understand the market a little bit. He's well represented maybe by Amino Raiola, Pini Zahavi, or Jorge Mendes. But what about the 99%ers? They need assistance of a player. They need the assistance of a lawyer, because I will repeat, just to finish, for me, between 15 years old and 18 years old, these are the key moments of a player's career. The key moment. It is not just about paying commission. A good agent really knows how to instruct a player, how to help the player to pick the best choice for his career. Because if he sign a 5 years contract or 3 years contract, as FIFA say, when he's 15 or 16, so it's until 19. But when he's 18, he will sign another contract of 3 years old. So it's 21. And then he'll sign a 5 years extension. It's 25. I mean, you understand how is this between 15 and 18? This is a very key moment in a player's career. And we have to pressure FIFA to allow players to be well represented by proper and controlled agents. And this is the time, because FIFA will take control again of the narrative, because it will regulate the agents. You know that. We are taking part actively in the discussions. And we are the EFA board, we are pressuring FIFA to allow players to be represented when they will sign their first professional contract. This is very important. And in Brazil, this can be with 16 years old. So this is only the topics that I would like to raise here. Sorry about that, I extend myself.
No. Thank you for your time, gentlemen. Let me go to Philippe. Philippe, as an agent,
yes,
what kind of relationship do you think you can have with grassroots football that can bring development?
Can you repeat again? Sorry, I was interrupted.
Okay, as an agent, what kind of relationship do you think you can have with a grassroots football?
It's not bad connection.
Yeah, it's bad. Again, please.
Are you hearing me? Hello, Phil?
Yes, I'm here, but you have a bad connection. I was interrupted again, your question.
Okay. I will repeat it.
Sorry about that.
As an agent, Philip.
Yes.
What kind of relationship do you think you can have with grassroots football that can bring development?
So you mean from Nigeria to Switzerland or to Europe in general, or just
general relationship from Switzerland
with young
to
players
Africa?
or with Africa?
Yes.
So I mean, in Switzerland, there's no limitation to represent a young player. Anyway, we start representing players with 15, 16, because we believe in long-term relationship. And as Marcos said, it's very important because the clubs in the end always have their own interests and will always pursue their own interests. And a player is always the weakest in the whole system, of course. And young players have no idea what they can ask for or where they stand. And so it's very important to kind of protect them, in my opinion. And of course, you also have agents on the other side who take advantage of young players because they're not educated in that sense. So for me, it would also be important that clubs focus to educate their young players. What does it mean to have an agent? What does it mean? What is their work? And unfortunately, sometimes Swiss clubs, or in Switzerland especially, they see us as danger because they say we're not necessary and we take away money or whatever out of the system, like FIFA is saying that. And in other countries like Germany, I think it's really different. And while in terms of Africa or Nigeria in specific, it's under 18 anyway. It's impossible to bring a player to Switzerland. This is not possible because the laws are very strict in Switzerland to get the working permit. And there's other countries in Europe, I would say like Greece, Cyprus, Sweden, who are more easygoing on giving working permits. Switzerland has quite strict laws to enter. So, and an advantage, for example, for Brazilian players is they have mostly an Italian, Portuguese passport because they can easily get it. So for them, it's easy to get to Europe. If that's the goal, I mean, it's not, I mean, Brazilian football has developed a lot, and we can see that a lot of Brazilian players rather stay in Brazil to pursue their career as to move to Europe, because in Brazil they're home, and in Europe it's still, well, it's different to Brazil, that's for sure.
All right, that will take me to the next question, Philippe. You talk about the Switzerland national law, which prevents you from signing an African player, an international player below the age of 18. Then what effect does the national laws have in the development of grassroots football?
For Switzerland specific or for foreign players? Sorry.
You have said that in Switzerland,
yes,
you can sign a player below 18, an international player below 18.
Yeah. If he's from European Union,
if the player is from European Union, you can sign him.
If he's 16.
16.
Yeah.
All right. Let me go to a coach now.
This is the exception.
Exceptional.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me go to a coach now. Can you score?
Yes, sir.
As a youth coach, right?
Yeah.
What effect does the national laws have in the development of grassroots football? How can you prescribe the national law and the grassroots football development?
Right. So, I mean, for Nigeria and Africa specifically, I mean, there are laws that that are there for grassroots to develop. Nigeria has not been lacking laws, to be very honest. Yes, I agree that there are other couple of laws that will make the regulators and the government and especially the clubs to be more responsive, more responsible in management of players. But however, I think it's not just about laws now. It's about how to implement those laws, how to bring about the kind of transformation that is needed at every strata, from the academy all the way to the national level. And to be very honest, the laws are there, but then usually the challenge arises where there are clashes of interest and there are no clear specific, like Marcos was saying, specific path to be able to handle specific things. So in creating the broader road for the Nigerian space and also the African space, we need to move beyond lawmaking and also to go into implementation and ensuring quality at the level of that implementation. I believe that the current laws, if properly implemented at the moment, we will see at least more than 20% growth in the quality of the grassroots production that we have at the moment, and also which would then spiral into the entire thing. It's really interesting to hear Philippe say that for countries in the European Union, 16 can go into a contract, and then for other regions, it's more like 18. So, this kind of information, to be honest, is not readily available to an average African or Nigerian player, or even sometimes an agent. So, these are some of the things, literally glues here and there, that can help catalyze people, because when people know, then they can act better. If they don't know, their actions will probably, dictate the kind of their level of understanding. And I believe, with this we can begin to achieve growth and it's really healthy growth in the space of the academics in Nigeria.
Kinescos, you need to consult me for more information on that. You need to contact me. Yeah,
We can have a conversation after this call. I would love to know Marco's Twitter handle to connect with him as well.
Yeah, I will supply everything you may need.
All right.
Just contact me. All right, Rodrigo, you are trying to say something.
No, I'm sorry. I was just sending an audio. Sorry.
Okay. Anyway, let's move on to another question. In the recent time, talent coming from Africa rises to the stardom in global football. Raf, what brings this rise of African stars in global football?
But I think in the last years the system of football from Africa is growing, and we are in Italy. There are more sensibility about the situation of football in Africa. And the regulation, the national regulation in the national law in Italy is very strictly about the young player under 18. But we have many academy with young player, and I say the number about the players from Africa in Italy. I repeat, about 22,000 of players in 2019 between young players and professional players from all Africa there was in Italy. So this is is important number for our interest about market of Africa. I think in the global system, the Africa has a good position, and it is growing the position in the last year. Repeat, because the player can play in his country, in their country, sorry, when they are young player, and after with the coach, with the European coach, with South American coach, and after we can go in to start the career as professional player in Europe.
Okay. Okay. One more question. From scale 1 to 10, can you just rate the African players against the rest of the world?
The rest, sorry?
Yeah. Can you, from scale 1 to 10, rate the African player against the rest of the world?
Is 10 the highest or 10 the lowest?
Is that?
Is 10 the highest or 10 the lowest?
Okay. Let's do it this way. From scale 1 to 5, it's an average. 6 to 10.
All right, so who do you direct the question to, actually?
Raf.
Okay, Raf.
Okay, sorry, can you repeat, because I don't hear, is bad connection.
Okay, I said from scale 1 to 10. You to rate an African player against the rest of the world?
Again, against the rest of the world.
Yes. How can you rate an African players?
But I don't think there are many different. I don't see many different. So in this time, I think the player from Africa and the player from the rest of the world are similar by athletic and by technical skill. I think now we said before, since 5 or 10 years ago was different, but now I don't see this different from the player between the player from Africa or the rest of the world. I think I'm not a technical man. I'm not a coach. I'm a lawyer, and I work with agents. But with the football fan, there are many favorite players from Africa, and we saw in Italy many players in this time. For me, there are not particular difference.
Okay, thank you. Phil.
Thank you.
Yes.
If you are to rate the African players against the rest of the world, how will you rate them?
Number 10.
Number 10. Wow.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I think from a like Raf said, it's the Brazilian player, African player. They're all technically on the same level, and also the problem we have seen. I would speak for Europe. It's more probably a cultural problem. So African players are probably more from Nigeria, not used to the cold. I think that's a big issue as well, even though it sounds like, yeah, it's cold, but it's really cold here, so it's a difference. And also to there's also a discipline issue. If it's in Switzerland, Germany, especially if it's 9:30, you have to be there, then it's on the dot 9:30. And the more you go south, also Spain, Portugal, the timing is not important. It's like, yeah, 9:30 plus minus. And then it creates just conflicts, perhaps also for no reason. But this is why European clubs are perhaps a little bit not negative, but cautious about engaging non-European players, not only Africans, but also South Americans, because it's just a different culture. I mean, that's just how it is. But that's why for me, it would be important that young players could come early to Europe so they can adapt to our culture. And then they would have less problem fitting in later. This is for me would be the best solution. And we've also seen that with Switzerland has a lot of players from Kosovo. Swiss national team is like half from Kosovo originally. And the big advantage they had is that they were coming as immigrants to Switzerland. But they learned football in Kosovo, but they did the rest of the education from 12, 15 in Switzerland. And this mixture of growing up, let's in Kosovo and learning football there, same would be for Africa. And then having the end of the education in Switzerland with discipline and other attributes, this makes the perfect mixture. And I think, yeah, this cannot be for every player because not all of the players can come here, but I think Red Bull tried it with in Accra in Ghana. They have an academy there.
Yes.
and they were quite, in my opinion, quite successful.
Wow. What if you can talk to Lugano? I want to bring Lugano to Nigeria. Philippe.
Lugano, FC Lugano.
FC Lugano, yeah. I like the structure, the structure of the academy. So I would like them to establish FC Lugano Africa Academy in Nigeria. If you can do that, the youth coaches here will appreciate it.
I think with Lugano it's difficult because at the moment they try to sell the club.
Wow.
They're not in a very good financial stability. There is Grasshoppers. They have probably the best youth academy in Switzerland.
Yeah.
And they were just bought by it's Mendes together with the Chinese.
Wow.
You know, they bought also another English club, and they own several clubs and they move around the young players.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you. Because of our time, let me throw this question to the general house. What area of grassroots football do you think needs development? And what support can you give to grassroots football in Africa? Let me start with Nigeria agent. Eddie, are you there? Hi, Eddie. Eddie is not online. Global.
Yeah, good. I'm here.
Okay, Eddie, what area of grassroots football do you think needs development in Nigeria and Africa at large?
Okay, basically the issue of education is lacking. The level of education at the grassroots level is something that needs to be tackled, because if the players are not well educated at that age, it's difficult for them to take the right decision when they are in places to sign their first professional contract or to enter into any form of agreement. So basically, if I want to focus on any aspect in grassroots football development, it will be on the aspect of players' education. Thank you.
Also, what support can you give to grassroots football?
All right, personally, I've been on the trend. I've been organizing some free online training for some clients, and I make it public for whoever that is available to access it, because I believe through that medium of education, some can get the right information and they can take the right decision for their career.
All right, thank you. Gbenga Global, your turn. What area of grassroots football do you think needs development?
His microphone is
Go on.
All right, thank you. I think based on development, I think they need development in every aspect. But the key area is that area of education, because if you don't have education, there's no way you can achieve your vision or mission in life. At the point in time, I'm going to ask one of the grassroots player in Nigeria, but the guy is really talented, but he's not educated. And if you are not educated, and I think there's no way you can be able to pull through some stages in area of your career. And sometimes if you ask them some question, what exactly do you want to be in life? They will tell you they like to take the football as their career, but they don't really know how to operate with the agent, with the club, and and these are the players that they will go for training in the morning. You now ask them, what are you doing with your time after your training in the morning? They will tell you, I watch football, I'll sleep, then I play games and all that. So I do ask them, what level are you in the education area? But they said that for the education, whatever, they don't want to study anymore, they want to play football. I said, football have gone past that stage that you were saying that you want to play only football. Any job in the whole life now, you need to be educated in that aspect of what we are doing. But the area of grassroots, I think we need to push education to them as much as possible and to let them see how they can add that thing
what they are planning to be in life. At times, if you tell one of my players, I told them it has got to a point that you have to do a class training before you go to pitch. They said that, but football is practical now. You don't need to go to classroom before you can be a professional footballer. And that's the area we are losing it. They really lack. They don't want to go to classroom or tell them this is blackboard or you want to teach them something. They prefer watching Messi, Ronaldo, and go and practice on the pitch. But before Ronaldo and whatever they can be start today, area of education is still there for them. If we can encourage players to learn more in any aspect of life, I think it will help their career in football. Thank you so much. I think that education is very important also, to let them see that they need to study before they can become something in life. Thank you for your time.
So you support the educating part.
It's the key, please. It's the key.
Luis Gustavo, how are you doing?
I'm fine.
What area of grassroots football do you think needs development? I would like to hear from you.
I think it's you have to work with education and
you are
maybe
also going for
bring
education.
and bring maybe some investments and I think it's good. Like if you can move the younger players to Europe, for example, we can think about making some exchange, like in summer camps, like bringing European kids to Africa, African kids to South America, and make this a big unit thing, you know? Hello?
Yeah, you are on.
Did you hear me?
Yeah, clearly.
The exchange thing, I think, I don't think it's possible, but it's an idea to bring culture for a multiple culture for every continent, you know? So it can help for adaptation when they are working or playing in other countries.
All right. Rodrigo.
Okay. So I believe that grassroots football would be in a great position if parents have the responsibility, if they assume the responsibility of educating their son and not trying to make him as the next Messi or the next Ronaldo, as Marcos said. If they enjoy their starting years in football, they can see everything as enjoyment, and they will learn more through that process. They will be more educated. When you reach 15, 16, then you have a different mindset. It's through that age that you can define if that player has a real future in football or if he does not have. In fact, I have my own experience to state this. When I was 13, I was invited to go to the mainland because I'm from the islands in Portugal to play for Guimarães. I passed the tests, everything right. In my mind, I was the next Luis Figo, and at that time, the next big thing, I was going to a big club, and I called my mom. My mom must stay. I must stay here. It's the big opportunity. I don't know if I can make it without this opportunity into professional football. But when you are a young kid, you cannot see things into perspective. And the role that my mom had, even though it hurt me in ways that I could not imagine, it was, hey, you are not going to be Luis Figo, you are not going to be Ronaldo, you're going to school, you are going to educate yourself, and you are going to enjoy football. If an opportunity arises when you are 16, 17, 18, maybe the conversation will be different. And I believe this is the main topic, to help parents to understand that their son is not an asset. it needs to be educated and needs to have the tools to improve himself, not only as a player, but as a person as well.
All right, thank you. So we are all agree on the low level of education in our grassroots football. If that is so, then I also will go for it. I'll support it. Guinness, go. What do you have to say?
I think I have like more of a question to ask, to tweet, basically to get perspectives, because grassroots football are in different stages of development across the world. So grassroots football development in Africa and Nigeria is different from Portugal or Switzerland or Spain. And the level of exposure and the expectations are a bit different.
You are not clear. You are not clear.
Hello? Oh, hello, can you hear me?
Okay, you are clear now.
Right, I said grassroots football is at different levels across the world. In Africa, for instance, in Nigeria, the grassroots level is a bit different from Portugal, Europe, or Greece, or Italy. And it affects like exposure. It affects what is expected.
You are not clear. You are not clear. Marcus.
Yes.
Yeah. What area of grassroots football do you think needs development?
I mean, I heard a lot of education. Of course, this is a pretty issue that shall be tackled. You are the experts in African football. You know better than I do what are the needs of your football. So what I'm saying that is because I think that we have to have two different perspectives when you talk about development of the grassroots in football in Africa, in South America, in the Caribbean. We have the local level, I mean, in terms of what the academies are doing, their business practices, their educational practices, their, how they run their business in all perspective. Technical, in the business side, this is one thing. And I think that you are pretty aware about your needs and how you can improve locally. But on the other hand, I think it's very important. Africa, you play important role in the global football. I was now here having a look in a FIFA TMS numbers, and the numbers of the African Football Confederations are substantial numbers. They are very clear numbers in terms of growth. I mean, of course, you have some countries that are lowering in transfers and also in the amount, not on the number of players, but also in the amount involved. But in any case, I think this is the moment. Again, I will repeat, it's a very important moment for all of us, not only Africa, but also South America, to be very active in what the regulators are doing at the moment. Okay, this is very important. What FIFA is doing, what the stakeholders are doing, meaning ECA, FIFPro, Leagues Forum, EFA, the Agents Association, and the European Agents Association, because there are a lot of things that will change. There are a lot of things that are changing. And we have, in order to develop the grassroots of football in Africa and in Brazil, for example, in South America, we have to pay full attention in all the issues related to training clubs, educational clubs, academies, like solidarity mechanisms, training compensation, players' contracts, minors. We have to pay attention to what they are proposing there in Switzerland, and you have to pressure our local federations to take an active part in these discussions. Again, we are not here to talk about the 1%ers. We are here to talk about the 90%ers. So it's very important for us to take an active role in the discussions now in terms of, again, FIFA solidarity mechanism, training compensation for training clubs, the regulations of the academies, protection of minors, contract players, representation, all these topics at the moment now today are open, and other discussions of the governing bodies in Europe and in Switzerland, in FIFA. So my suggestion and my concern here, that again, is not only about education, and I know that you are doing what you have to do in Africa, trying to improve wherever you want to improve, but we have to go a little bit broader. You have to go beyond our regions, because at the end of the day, we play a very important role in the global football in terms of players, transfers, the football economics, and you have to have a more active voice in the decision makers and the rule makers of the governing bodies in Switzerland. So this is my suggestion for all of us, not only for Africa, but this is a self-criticism that, again, we have to raise our flags and you have to protect our markets, okay? This is my message.
All right, let's hear from Hamza. Hamza Hakim, are you there?
Sorry, good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, I hope you can hear me.
Clearly,
very well.
Yeah, it's actually been a wonderful discussion, and I would say I'm happy to be part of this discussion. I'm a club owner in Nigeria, a Grassroots club, and I would say I'm a stakeholder in the Grassroots. And the reason why I joined this webinar is because I see this part of my business, and I think I've been able to learn a lot. And I will say thank you to everyone who initiated this. But I think like the discussion, like I think the major problem is not players' education, like which I sent to the chat room. The problem we're having majorly at the grassroots, especially, let me use our own terrain as an example, which is Nigeria in particular. The problem we're having is coaches' education. You know, most of the coaches here are not educated enough. And I would say, I can say that's 99%. And, you know, like they say, a good coach makes a good player. When a coach is not educated enough, there is no way it won't translate to the players. So it is important that in as much as we are trying to focus on players' education, we should look more into coaches' education, because that is what will make the system more better. When we have enough of the coaches that are being educated, I think it's going to do a lot of help. And another thing I think is also important at the grassroots is the issue of facilities. You know, most of the teams or most of the players are trained under facilities that are not modern, whereby when they go to Europe for trial and all that, they find it difficult and all that. So all this still boils down to the system, like Rodrigo said, like everything still boils down to the system, which I believe if we all come together as a stakeholder, intermediary, club owners, and everybody at the grassroots, we can make a better future for the grassroots. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay. Sorry, can I say something? Sorry.
Okay, Global.
Hello.
Global.
Oh, okay. It's a very good point. We are mentioning education. Yeah, thanks to Mr. Hakim to elaborate on coaches and player and all aspects of football for educational stuff. And when we are talking about structural aspect of it, I think that's beyond control, because that's structural part of the facility we are talking about here is not something that we can build in a week or a day. But my question is, what can be the way forward, at least in that aspect of that facilities problem? So what you guys think about that one in Nigeria? what can be the way forward? How can we help this player to train themselves with facility?
Emmanuel.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Can I? Okay. So basically, for me on the issue of infrastructure, we know that in Nigeria we don't have the infrastructure for or the facilities for training. We know that. So I think what we need to emphasize more from the ends of all of us stakeholders is public-private partnership. We need to have people bringing funds together, work with government, and own facilities. I know of club sites in Nigeria who already own their own private facilities. I think this is one way to go: public-private partnership. Try and get government to come jointly own a facility, because it's seriously a big problem for us here in Nigeria. So I think public-private partnership can drive it, can make it work. Then private investors also can come in and own their own facilities where they can make money. I was sharing with a friend recently, Surulere is a major hub of football in Nigeria, but outside the NIS accommodation facility, there is no hostel facility around Surulere, and that's another business for for anyone, any investor. You could come build hostel facility around Surulere, and then clubs come, instead of lodging in hotels, they come lodge at your football hostel. So I think investors can also come in when it comes to infrastructure. So on the issue of education that I want to also comment on, basically our problem has been education, take it or leave it. Whether the coaches, overall, even as administrators. I recently was asking myself this morning, how many of our coaches can afford the NI certification in Nigeria? What are administrators doing to make these courses, break it down? Are you running these courses online already? Now, the NIS has been, I guess they must have been on lockdown for now. The students, those who have enrolled already, cannot probably access courses now. So what are we doing to make sure that we don't just have to go to NIS to gain this coaching qualification? Because a number of these coaches want to, they want to be educated too, but they probably don't have the funds. They probably don't have the assets. Somebody has to provide something for them. So is there a government, basic certification at the FA level in the UK? I'm aware of these basic certifications that are done for coaches for very affordable rates. So when we have to go to coaching courses for about 300, 400,000 to start with, it frustrates these people. They can go in and they have passion to coach, We have to look at it from that angle too. It's very, very important. Another thing again is the world is going digital. So it's going to be online learning. Everybody has to start self-learning and all this stuff. So for me, on the part of education, it's all encompassing. We as stakeholders can also start like webinars like this to start encouraging these youth coaches, to start training them also, to start empowering them. It's not because they don't want to, but because some of them don't have the means to. So it's very, very important. On the aspect of the players, I also want to add that the players should not just focus on education that has to do with football alone. It's very, very important. I was sharing with some of my own players in my own academy that there are scout courses online for 20,000 € or 15,000 € that I know that they can afford, their parents can afford. And I say, do you know there's a UEFA licensed coach who is just 18 years? So can we have a young Nigerian player who is, looking forward to life after football to become a UEFA licensed coach, to become a UEFA licensed or to be a scout or something? So they shouldn't just be focusing on the football education or just education, but we want to look at other areas, because there is always life after football. There is sports medicine, there is law in sports. So what are these players looking into? So it should not just be the football education only, it should be education also outside football, so that they have something to fall back on, because that has always been our problem in Nigeria. Our players can't even afford to buy themselves boots because they don't have the funds. So if they learn to train, say, graphics design, just a minute, sir. Just a minute. If they have the opportunity to train some other soft skills, permit me to say, like graphic design, video editing, and all of these skills, it also helps them to do stuff for themselves. Hope you understand. So it's all encompassing. We can go on this conversation and that's just my only to take. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Emmanuel. We are
if I may just
we are
to add or
time. Okay, Rodrigo, you want to say something?
Sorry. Yes, just to add or to review some of what Marcos said previously about the power in. Sorry?
60 seconds, please.
Oh, okay. As we know, CAF went on to administration by FIFA on allegations of misconduct, wrongdoing, corruption. So I believe that for CAF to have a higher stance and a higher position in the table when negotiating certain provisions that may enable them to develop their grassroots football, but also their professional football, I believe the power comes from within. So restructuring the power structure within CAF, making it more transparent, making it more compliant with the practice of good governance. At least this is my view. So CAF first has to take the step further to improve from within and then to demand from the outside, even though this is a quite unlikely relation. There's a federation in Switzerland that commands what goes on in Africa. Of course, this is not right. So CAF must have the structure to improve from the grassroots to the professional. And I cannot take anything away from Emmanuel, because even actually through telepathy or something related to, he just spoke out a lot of ideas that I wanted to touch upon. So thank you, Emmanuel, for having the brief.
Yeah, thank you. As a matter of fact, Rodrigo, as at yesterday, CAF have suspended all their training since the year 2017. No CAF licensing since 2017. So CAF on its own hold us a lot of things in terms of football development in Africa. So it's a topic for another day. If you are to discuss CAF now, we'll be talking and talking till tomorrow. So let's just leave CAF, then we'll discuss.
Everything is intertwined in some way, shape, or form, you know?
I know it's interwoven, or at least let's leave CAF. They are the senior federation in Africa, so they own us. Marcus, are you there?
I'm here. Okay.
As a sports lawyer, I want to ask you and Raf this question. As a sport lawyer, what advice can you give to grassroots football handlers in Africa?
No, that's what I said before. I mean, my role as a sports lawyer, it's and coming from the youth background, yeah, as I said, Flamengo and so on. My role is not only to discuss the sports in a global level, but also to try to discuss the sports and the debates as I said, local, meaning a global perspective with a local activation. This is always local. Yeah, that's always the approach that I have when I'm invited to take part in my lectures and in the seminars and, for the last 20 years. And maybe that's why people is interested to listen to me sometimes, because as I said, I have the opportunity, and I'm blessed to have the opportunity to have some voice in some forums, in some debates. And I'm always trying to represent the developing regions. We advise big agents that, turn into that this market, small clubs in Brazil, big clubs in Asia, big clubs in Brazil, whatever, but always trying to, it's impossible to have like one size fits all. There is not one size fits all. So I think all of us, we have to have some flexibility and to have a more holistic view of the industry in order to try to foster and to adapt to the needs, specific needs. It's a big challenge. It's a big challenge because we have conflicting interests all the time. But I'm trying my best, as usual, to always to have academies, youth squads, training, education in my agenda when I have the opportunity to speak loud.
In 60 seconds, Marcus. In 60 seconds.
So much. Thank you so much for the invitation. It was fantastic.
Before we leave, in 60 seconds, what's your advice to the grassroots football handlers?
I mean, keep doing. I mean, grassroots is we have the pyramid of football, right? And grassroots are here. So without here, we don't have the top. So we have been discussing for the last years how to keep how this gap between the top of the pyramid and the bottom of the pyramid, and we have such unbalanced market, very unbalanced market. This is very clear. And now with the COVID, I think this will be more and more unbalanced. As I said, rich clubs and rich federations will still there. But for us that we are now struggling, countries that are struggling at the moment, we have a lot of difficulties for many reasons. So we have to have one topic in our agenda: how to have a more balanced market and how to take care and to protect the base of the pyramid, which is about grassroots football.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Raf, your advice to the grassroots football handlers.
I don't know if I can give you advice. I hear the interview of the other colleagues of Marcos and other, but I see now the difference between the legal system of FIFA, of the federation, and the real system. We have the rules old, very old than the real situation. The player, the young player now are different than the player. The situation of young player now is different than the situation of 10 or 5 years ago. It need to change the rules about the market, about the situation of the young player from Africa, from Asia, from Europe, everywhere. But it's need to have a meeting between the FIFA, the federation, and all stakeholders about the young player. If we think the young market is about I think 65% of all markets in the world. It's impossible to have this difference between the rules of FIFA, of federation, and the situation, this situation about the system of a young player. I hope in the next year in the FIFA and its president called to discuss about the system of a young player and the market of a young player, and change some rules that are difficult to use in this system. I before said about the approach from the agents with the young players is a problem. It's a problem. It's impossible to think that a player, before Marcos said about the time from 15 to 18, it's the most important time for a player. I am agree. It's impossible in this time that the agent cannot work with the player, or they cannot have a remuneration about this. I'm work with the young player because I am a lawyer. The lawyer can work with the agent, with club for a young player. But I think the professional agent, it's important in that time. My wish that the FIFA and the federation can talk about it in the next time.
All right, Phil. As an agent, what advice can you give to grassroots football handlers?
Most important thing is working hard, education. Yeah, it's your environment. Of course, in Africa you have less opportunities because less pitches, less educated coaches, less opportunities to enter a first team. But yeah, it's the system is here. It's very difficult to change, obviously, and but I think we need to keep working and try working more together to achieve better results. And as the more we exchange information, knowledge, it will help everybody on both sides to become better.
All right. As an agent, what can you do? What support can you give to the grassroots football handlers in Africa as an agent?
Me personally or in general?
You personally.
In Africa, well, it's difficult. I mean, we see it also here in Switzerland. It's already difficult if the player is in Germany because you cannot be with him all the time, and you need to have a personal contact. You need to see the young player in person, and so you would have to fly to Nigeria to do that. Otherwise, just having like a Skype call, it's not gonna. I don't know if this is really gonna help because it's very difficult, and also just like sending money or something, it's also not gonna solve problems. So it's there's not one solution in my opinion. There's several solutions, and there needs to be a consensus to go further. So the easiest way for me, if I would be like representative of a Swiss club, I would try to have like Red Bull did with Accra, to have a talent school in Africa somewhere and exchange coaches, exchange players, both sides, so that also European players see what it means to play in Africa and the other way around, and that coaches can learn from each other, because you always can learn from every person. You can learn something. That's what I believe. So yeah, that would be my suggestions.
Anyway, thank you guys. Before we leave, let's hear from Hamza Akim. Hamza, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, clearly. Yeah. What can an agent do for your football club? What do you expect from an agent for your clubs to develop, or what do you think an agent can do for you?
Yeah, from my own personal opinion, like what Phil said, I think it's the way forward, whereby there can be an exchange program. I think that's the best solution to clubs or to academies here in Nigeria, and whereby these exchange programs can help in educating both the players in terms of the technical, tactical, in all kind of manners of the football. And we can see some academies in Africa, like what Phil said, the Red Bull. We have Aspire in Senegal, and we have a couple of if we can have more of that academies. I think we have one in Port Harcourt now, the Real Madrid, what's it called, academy too. So if we can have such big academies, it will help, whereby teams at the academy can go there to see their modules, the way they run things, you know, whereby they will be given access, like few of us will be given access to go and see how it's being run. So with this way, it will help us to shaping our own academies so that we'll understand this is how it will help us to project our play. I think the best is if agents can, you know, like the just exchange program. I think that's just the most important thing.
Okay, Diogo, are you there? We have just 5 minutes left.
Yes, I am.
All right. How can you support? What support can you give to grassroots football in Africa?
I do think it's like it's not our position to tell Africa what they should do, but I'm totally in with what Marcos said. That I do think that not only Africa, but Africa, South America, and even us here in North America should be more organized and having a better voice in everything that is happening in Switzerland. Because we are a very important part of this marketing, but they are not listening to us. And they are not listening to Africa. And I do think that's something that would be important for like grassroots football in Africa or like in Brazil, where I came from too, is like being more organized and being not demanding, but being in those tables and negotiating with them. Because it's really easy for us to talk about education and rely on the parents and the family or the players to be more educated and to be more ready for these markets. But at the end of the day, it won't happen. If like FIFA or the governments and like the organized society in Africa that don't help them to do that. So I do think that we as a whole who are outside of these European markets should be more organized and be more listened and have our voice being heard in Europe. And then not only like to provide players to Europe or to the big clubs, but having something back. And something back is not only about money; it's about being organizing ourselves and about helping ourselves and about like bringing the infrastructure to ourselves to being able to deliver and to give the opportunity to the players and to the coaches and to everybody else to be educated. Not only rely on them to one day they will start to do that, because it won't help. So that's my opinion. It's not like what I'm not in the position to tell what Africa should do. I think you guys are doing a pretty good job and delivering a very like amazing players to the world, very talented. But I think it's a matter of having something back on the trade of that.
Wow. Anyway, finally, it's a general question. How do you see football after COVID-19? Diogo.
Sorry, it broke. I didn't listen to you.
I said, how do you see football after coronavirus, this pandemic? How do you see football?
I think many things will change. I do think this crisis will hit every single club in the world very hard. But I do think that we can learn from that and prepare ourselves to when something like this pandemic happens again. It doesn't have to be a pandemic. It has to be any crisis that can hit us in the future. I don't think we are prepared to that. So I do think that it will change the soccer world. I do think that the soccer market will be hit, the players market will be hit, all the infrastructure will change. But I do think that we will learn so many things during this pandemic that we will be able to use it in the future. So we are back in the position to be all interns again, and having to understand and having to make new tools to communicate, and everything that we are having to be able to deliver to our sponsors and to our fans will change everything. So we are relearning how to do everything. And again, I'm not like very optimistic and say, okay, this will be a very learning and this will be a good opportunity to everybody, because there is nothing good in this pandemic. People are dying everywhere. But taking this to the side, I do think that in the end of everything, everybody will see and will listen to people more than we did in the past. And I do think that we will be able to connect to our fans in a better way after this pandemic. So I do think that there will be a good side on it if we learn with everything that is happening.
All right. Thank you. Rodrigo, anything, how do you see football after pandemic?
Well, I think that clubs are the most affected during and after this pandemic. And I think that this is a sign that they have to change their business model, being more focused on the future. And this, I particularly want to point out the broadcasting deals, because I believe it's at an optimal point. You cannot go further than that. And I believe that you have to search for other markets, streaming service, engagement platforms with the fans, more content being created by the club. And I think this will affect directly the image rights contracts with some players. Some players have the sufficient bargaining power with the clubs to make the contracts more beneficial, or at least in some way beneficial to them. But I believe that in the future, clubs will change their perspective with regard to image rights contracts, and they will be more stringent with regard to some clauses in order for them to make a bigger profit than what they are doing at this point. This pandemic is showing them that they have to search and to try to implement other and different sources of revenue in order to maintain their sustainability. Because as we can see at the present moment, a lot of clubs are threatening that they will open bankruptcy proceedings. But the bankruptcy proceedings is not due to the pandemic. It's from problems that are related to bad management from 10 years ago. So it's like a heritage. It goes on with different managements. And I think this pandemic shows us, and also a lot of administrators, that they have to rely on different sources of revenue and to try to better manage their football team, especially the football team, because it's the main source of revenue, at least directly or indirectly. So I believe that the next 2, 3, 4 years, I believe that we are going to have a lot of conflicts. But also I think that we are going to witness some clubs thriving in this pandemic, while others are going into a downfall.
Yeah, thank you all for your time and your input. Before we leave, we have some guests. We have Jinadu Afis. Jinadu, how are you? Jinadu, are you there?
I'm good, sir. Good evening, everyone.
All right.
Good evening, everyone.
What's your location right now?
It's been a nice show.
What's your location?
Hello?
What's your location right now?
Lagos.
You are from Lagos.
I'm in Lagos.
Thank you for being part of the show. We have Timi Fadekwe. Timi, okay. How are you? Timi, how are you? We also have Ruth online. Ruth, how are you?
I'm fine.
What's your location right now?
India.
Oh, Ruth is... You joined us from India. How are you? How is India today?
India is fine.
Okay. Thank you for being part of the show. We also have Nadim. Nadim, how are you? Hello, Nadim. Oh, it's bad connection. We also have Prof. Prof, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm good.
What's your location right now?
I'm from Abuja.
Abuja, Nigeria. Thank you for being part of the show, Raffaele, finally, what's your take on the FIFA regulation? What do you think FIFA is trying to do for balancing the transfer
Michael, if I could interrupt, I have another event to take part here in a Zoom at 10 a.m. I'm 5 minutes late. So I will have to leave you, but I would like to thank you so much for your kind invitation. Like to also to thank you so much for all the participants for the fruitful discussions that you have here to learn each other. I think that communication should be, the flavor of the month. I think the market, the collaboration curve is very important, in this moment. So you can count on me here in Brazil, whatever you want to have my contacts. Let's keep in touch. Michael, thank you so much again for the kind invitation.
Thank you, Marcos. Thank you. We are to leave now. Yeah. Raffaele.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your time, for your input, and for your participation. Hope when I call you again, you will be part of the show. Sure. All right. Do have a wonderful day.